Hello, this is Jane Talbot, and you're very welcome to Get Creative, a series of inspiring conversations with people who found their creative groove. Tonight, I'm interviewing my friend Jill Peterson, a florist. Say hello, Jill.
Hi.
Hi, Jill. And before we go into the conversation, there are a few things I would like to explain before we get going. There are many people who are attending the webinar live tonight who may not have been to a webinar before. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about how it works. The first thing to be aware of is that there actually is a 30-second lag between what I'm saying and what Jill is saying and what you're experiencing. So if you ask questions or make comments and you think, hang on a minute, why aren't they answering that? It's because of this lag. So I can already see that there are some people in the webinar room, and what would really be lovely is if you could give us a shout out. So I'm going to now show you how to ask questions and post comments. So if you look to the right hand side of your screen, you will see a chat box, and you'll see chat public, and there's a little down facing arrow. If you click on that arrow, there's also chat private. So if you want to ask a question, you can use the public or the private toggle. If you ask a question or you make a comment and the public toggle is active, everyone sees what you say. If you want to ask a question and you want to remain anonymous, then just use the private toggle button. So to help us out, to make sure we know that everyone knows what they're doing, yes, we've got a hello, and it's marked private. I don't know if you meant to mark it as private, but thank you. So it's actually working. But hello to Jane and to Jill. That's absolutely perfect. So what usually happens on an event like this is people get themselves a cup of tea, they maybe sort the kids out, and then they gradually drift into the webinar room. So whenever you get in, that's perfect. And if you're already here, that's perfect too. If you join late, and this is for those, this is maybe a little bit silly of me to say, but if for people who join late, the replay comes to your inbox, your email inbox, about an hour after we finish. So no matter what part you join, you still get the full replay as well. Oh, and we have Karen. Hello, Karen. And she's wishing us good luck, which is absolutely brilliant. So it's great to have people with us. And the whole point of the webinar is it's not just two people talking, it's us also interacting with you who are watching too. So yes, you'll get you'll get a replay link. Ask questions all the way through, and I'll be chatting to Jill and asking questions, and every now and again I will look over, see what's happening on the chat thread, see if there's anything for me to pass on to Jill. So Jill, how did I meet Jill? Well, I met Jill, I think it was in 2011 when I moved over to Northern Ireland, and in September 2013, I got married, and Jill was part of that wedding ceremony. We had a Celtic hand fasting, and Jill came to a practice run. And what I didn't realise was Jill was taking a bit of a look around, and at the actual event, Jill transformed the place with flowers. So we had a yurt and we had a fire, and Jill knew both me and I think she'd met my husband briefly, and was able, from those meetings, from seeing the place, from knowing us, and from understanding the tone of what we wanted to achieve, to transform that venue and our whole wedding with flowers. It just wouldn't have been the same. So I realised at that moment what a talent Jill has, and there is a difference between people sitting behind a counter handing out flowers and people on a market handing out flowers, and someone who knows how to connect to people and to connect to place and to connect to the narrative or the story of an event. And Jill totally got that. So totally privileged to have Jill with me tonight. So good evening, Coleraine, or just outside Coleraine.
Hi.
So listen,
Hi, Jane.
I'm absolutely fascinated, and I'm sure everyone who is watching will be as well. When did it all start for you? And how did you get to where you are right now?
Okay, so being creative or artistic was something that was just with me from childhood. Coloring book and felt tip pens was my things that I always carried with me. So yeah, I knew that was where my kind of passions lay very, very young. So I then, through school, the only thing really that interested me was art, and I would have stayed late in the art department, but I couldn't do that. I didn't want to do the maths. I didn't want to be bothered with anything really but the art. So sticking with that thread, not knowing what my medium was going to be, focused on my GCSE art, did my A-level art, came out, and I wanted to go to, at this point, when I looked around at where I was going to study next, the aesthetics of the building seemed important to me, as well as where I was going to study. So when I looked at kind of a big skyscraper, ugly building, I just didn't want to go there. So I happened to be working in a flower shop anyway, but it literally at that point it was a Saturday job. I was enjoying it, but it wasn't where I thought my career was going to go. And so there was this beautiful Tudor college in Cheshire with a lake, and very picturesque, and I thought, right, what do they do that's artistic? So I fell into studying floristry at this beautiful building, and I loved studying there. I lived in the college, so I lived at that beautiful lake and in this beautiful Tudor building. It was a joy for 2 years, full-time studying flowers. So brilliant. Meanwhile, my training placement was with one of the UK's top florists. So I did a day a week with a guy called Ian Lloyd, who I got to see flowers at a different level. He's still one of England's top florists, and has gone from strength to strength and has always been an inspiration to me. So that really showed me what was possible with it. So coming out then of college, I headed over to Hong Kong, where I just kind of right time, right place. I got the job as head florist of the Peninsula Hotel.
Sorry, I can hear. Can you hear a little bit of feedback?
No.
No. Oh, it must just be my end.
It must just be my end. Okay.
So what I find fascinating already is felt a connection to place, which I'm assuming is really important. The kind of work you do now, you can interpret its atmosphere and what needs to be done florally speaking. Feels like quite a big leap to go to college and then suddenly say Hong Kong, or even if there's an opportunity to leap at it. What made you take the leap?
Ooh, okay. I think that's more of a personal reason. I think the leap thing was something that was going on within my family. I was a little bit bullied at school, and I watched the bullies, and I thought, I'm going to make something of my life. So that's where the leap came, and I did leaps numerous times. You'll hear through my story. Whenever an amazing opportunity landed, I went for it, and it did take me fantastic places. So leaping is a good thing, when it's there in front of you, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Listen, we've just had a bit of feedback. And the suggestion is to put them on. Relax, because I'm not going to talk very much.
Okay, I probably do have. They might be One Direction headphones.
All the better. I actually should have charged.
Just give me a second then.
You're so trendy. We did actually do a technical check before we went live, and we were fine. Oh, those are fabulous.
Okay, Bo has some One Direction headphones. I love 1D.
And maybe if you were experiencing feedback while watching this, if this improves the situation, if you can just give us a thumbs up, that would be really helpful. It certainly improved it immediately for me now because I can't hear me at the other end. Okay, so you have the instinct to leap. And I do experience you as actually fearless in your field. So there you are, you're in Hong Kong, you're in a foreign culture. I'm assuming you've never been to Hong Kong before. What happened next in your creative journey?
Wow, it was, can you hear me?
Yeah, and you hear me okay? Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like I'm on Band-Aid. Okay, it was immense pressure, really. I took on a team of 5, what I considered adults.
Straight out of college? You took out straight out of college?
Yeah, my first job after leaving Ian Lloyd's training placement, my first job, 5 ladies, Chinese ladies. I was 20. My job description said I had to be 21, so I was too young for the job. And 5 ladies working under me that I felt it really difficult to give anybody an instruction. Wonderfully, they were amazing. My team were fantastically supportive. But yeah, it was a case of wing it until you know what you're doing kind of thing. And I kind of didn't realize. Well, I remember going into meetings with the head GM of Peninsula, like, you know, the head of this and the head of that, and having ideas but panicking, and when they came to me at the table, just kind of not being able to explain. By the end of my time there, I was able to kind of really say, right, I'm going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this here, and it's going to be amazing. And so, I mean, that was a real growth time at Peninsula.
Yeah. So it sounds like you plunged into the deep end. I think the Facebook phrase that would be going around is you jumped and you grew wings after you jumped, and then this created a solid platform for whatever came next. So how long were you in Hong Kong?
Absolutely. Hong Kong was 4 years, and I was one of the biggest flower buyers of Hong Kong at that time. Wow. I had the Peninsula has about 8 restaurants, all of very different styles. You know, there's Japanese, there's Chinese, there's a French, there's a Swiss. The lobby is vast. Anybody that knows the Peninsula knows the size of the flower range. It was in the lobby. It was an amazing, amazing job. And I would have worked till 10 o'clock at night every day, but my boss used to come and say, right, you need to go home now. But I loved it so much.
Can I ask then, so when you were back at college working with this guy, and there must be, you know, as an outsider, and for many of us watching, we must just think, well, floral designers, floral artists, florists, they just put bunches of flowers together. Did you decide to specialize? Because I think, you know, my sense is that you have got this special connection with spaces, that you can interpret that space and decide what the best thing to do is. Already at that stage, was that your specialism? That was your skill?
I don't think I realized it at the time, but I remember being asked around the room of the floristry students, what do you want to get out of doing this course? And most people wanted to go home to their village, town in Wales or somewhere and open an interflora flower shop. My reply, which was totally laughed out of the room, but my response to what do you want out of this is I wanted a room in the Tate Gallery to do floral sculpture that I changed every 3 days.
Right.
That's what I wanted.
Seeing it as art. And that's a massive distinction, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a medium. It's totally my medium. When I was deciding, apart from the building being beautiful, I really didn't mind at that point whether it was fashion design, jewelry design, interior design. It didn't really matter. When I saw the flower, when I thought about the flowers, and I thought, well, I have every shade and color and texture. It's almost more than a painting because you can take it further with the textures and the combination, and the personality of a flower. You know, you wouldn't mix a wild meadow flower with a strong stem tropicana. You know, they don't go together. They're not friends. You know, so the flowers give you texture, color, and personality all to go in that mix.
So you're kind of making floral installations then.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and the peninsula allowed me to do that.
Those combinations. The combinations you were talking about, well, I wouldn't know that. I think I would be the Damien Hirst of floral design.
Well, I mean, yes, I would have been inspired by that. At one point in a hotel in Manchester, I wanted to do upside-down Barbies coming out of arrangements with their legs sticking out because it was such a funky hotel. But yeah, I mean, that kind of thing can come into it for sure.
Yeah. So your teething ground was Hong Kong. And it sounds like at the end of that period of time, you're really confident about management and leadership skills. You had the talent, and now you had this leadership experience. Then what happened?
Then I guess the handover was coming in Hong Kong, 1997, and there was a lot of nervousness around. The partner that I was with at the time was headed off to Bora Bora to take up a position there with the Orient Express Group, and I ended up taking up a position at that hotel too. So we went off to Paradise Island, and you know, near Tahiti. Who wouldn't say yes to a job in Bora Bora? So headed off there and worked as the hotel florist for the Bora Bora Lagoon Resort on a private island in Bora Bora. Even absolutely incredible.
No, it is incredible. What I find so brilliant about it is being so young and fitting or seeming to fit comfortably into an alien environment, and then being willing to jump, take a leap. It's like, you weren't on the diving board. That board seemed quite high, but actually there was one up here which you could see. A lot of people at that age, they might say, wow, that's high, you know, where, and they look across, but you said, oh, well, what else is there? And I'm quite happy to dive off that as well. So tell us a little bit more about the Bora Bora experience.
Okay, so the Lagoon Resort's an uber luxury hotel. I don't actually think it exists anymore out there. They've replaced it with some other hotel. But my flowers came in a dustbin on the boat once a week, and instead of being in Hong Kong where I had access to everything that was flown in from Holland, I now had 3 types of flowers, all with immensely strong, straight stems, all tropical, which of course suited where I was. But I didn't have, I was used to working with all these, flow and shapes and things I could manipulate. Now there was no manipulation; it was straight stems. So it was a really interesting, way to have to come up with new designs with 3 materials.
So this sounds then, this is where you learnt resourcefulness. So in the first stage you had everything going and you could play, and you're learning your people skills.
Big budgets, yeah.
Everything's gone, and you're applying everything you know with this like totally limited budget, color palette wise, flower wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you look back on that, isn't it fabulous that you had this training program that was absolutely perfect for you?
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And one day a Tahitian lady who didn't speak English or very minimal French, and my French isn't very good, so we kind of couldn't really communicate. She asked me to follow her up behind her house, through the banana plantation, through the coconut plantation. I was getting a little bit weird, where's this woman taking me? And she took me to see this giant tropical heliconia in bright pink, like a cascading heliconia about 14 foot high. I'd never seen anything. So I was like, wow, that's incredible. She gets out a little knife and she chops it off for me. So I go home in the boat with this 14-foot heliconia. I've never seen the like of it again, but it lasted me for about 12 weeks. And I did all sorts with it. It was all kinds of different places around the hotel, but such an exciting moment to get this new pink flower.
And isn't it lovely, though, that she sensed that? She sensed that you could do something with it and that you needed it as well. Yeah. So how long were you in Bora Bora?
A year.
A year. And what made you leave? What happened next? I've got some
Oh,
questions coming up that
well,
I want to ask you in a second.
okay. Again, a personal situation dedicated that I leave Bora Bora. So I headed back to, my parents were in Cheshire at the time, headed back to Cheshire. And next then, I really wasn't there very long until I saw on the back of a floristry publication, The Florist, is the only floristry publication really in the UK, an advert with the guy from the war. You know that famous poster with the guy from the war? It was like, we want you. And it was, and it said, Bermuda wants you. They want me. I'm like, yeah, she's talking to me. So I phoned the number and did a telephone interview, had my chest x-rays and all the stuff you need for Bermuda, and got on a plane.
And what greeted you at the end? So if you look at the journey of transitions, if you were to sum up the Bermuda phase of your life and the Bermuda phase of your floral career, what was Bermuda all about for you?
Okay, I'm gonna start this by saying Bermuda is probably one of my favorite spots in the world, and I love the people. But Bermuda, career-wise, was not somewhere where I grew at all.
Right.
The floristry, there's lots of flower shops in Bermuda. The floristry is about getting an arrangement that's as big as you can for the money, with as many colors thrown in there. So artistically, there's not a lot going on. Bermuda was about the lifestyle that we had.
Yeah.
The color of the water and the lifestyle, and it was amazing. I loved my time in Bermuda, but it wasn't where
it wasn't artistically stretching. Yeah.
It made me fast. I got fast in Bermuda.
Right, there you go. You got fast, but also it's that
I got fast.
Adaptability. I'll be able to read the client. So it sounds to me you read 3 countries, and now every day you will be working with people who have different needs and wants, and that ability to read fast, play by the rules of what the customer wants, whilst offering something that the customer doesn't know is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that element. Mm-hmm.
So Bermuda, I've worn out already. I should have asked where
I'm only about, let me see, what age am I at this point? 24, 25, 20, I'm about 26 at this point.
So fast forward us then, give us some of the highlights of what came between Bermuda and being back home in Coleraine.
Okay, so after Bermuda, then I skipped on a plane to Tokyo. Worked in Tokyo for 4 years, as you do.
And what was Tokyo? What was the theme of Tokyo? What did Tokyo give you?
The theme was, Tokyo gave me an understanding of Feng Shui and how the Japanese people bring the outside in, and it's a necessity to have nature in your life. It's not I think for us it's an add-on. I can't think of the word, but it's not a necessity. But for the Japanese, it's part of their Feng Shui to have nature in their home and beautiful flowers. And I studied Ikebana a little bit while I was there to take the opportunity. And there was me with my knife in my hand, and I'd used to being fast and flicking flowers around and cutting off stems. Ikebana is about having 2 or 3 materials and contemplating it, and having meaning. I went to an Ikebana class. I was like, I'm done. Yeah. So I got.
Well, that's a great excuse, though, isn't it? If someone phones up and they're pushy, and you're saying, "Well, I'm just having to Ikebana this," so just chill out. Yeah. So, isn't this fabulous? So everything is adding something to your skill, to your perspective, adding something to your floral palette.
Just being in Japan is so inspiring. In a contemporary design way, everything is thought about aesthetically in Japan.
Yeah. And so, how long were you in Japan?
4 years.
4 years. So that was quite a period of time. Did you learn Japanese?
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. Watashi no hana ya desu. I'm a florist.
Konnichiwa, which doesn't mean
Konnichiwa, Jane
the conversation, but I thought I'd say hi anyway. So 4 years, and it was a brilliant place for you. What made you move on?
I guess I had run its time in Japan, and I wanted to. Yeah, my father wasn't very well. I suppose that's part of it, and I actually ended up back in Hong Kong very briefly, and then my father passed away, so I came back to Cheshire where my mum was.
Yeah. And then what happened? At what point did you get back to here to Coleraine?
Okay, there's a couple more kind of incidents that happened in between. Is that when I arrived back, I then moved to Manchester because I felt, after being in such big cities, a Cheshire village was too small for me. So I moved to Manchester, and a few days after moving, there was a big sign in Selfridge's window saying Jane Packer Flower Store opens tomorrow, and I was like, oh, it was a moment, So I went in the next day, handed in my CV in a lovely bright green envelope, and got the job. So I ended up running one of their stores in Manchester, and Jane, did I say Jane Talbot then?
Yeah, I'm not very good at flowers, so don't get me mixed up.
She's a big London florist, so it was a great opportunity to work with her. I then left to manage a store in a nearby town just off Manchester with a really big store, like a third generation flower shop. Managed that for a while and then got made redundant, which was a bit of a shocker, really, to get made redundant a few months before Christmas. I had no idea it was coming. Spent a little bit of time trying to work freelance, really, around Manchester, and then I got a call from a headhunter saying, Lady Bamford would like you to run her flower shop, come and interview for her flower shop in London. So that started the ball rolling of a series of interviews, which ended up with me working for Daylesford Organic and opening and managing their flower shop in Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there for another 4 years, I think, and then Bo, my daughter, was on her way, so I headed back then to Northern Ireland to be near my mum for some support. Bo, at about 1.5 years, then it was the point where I decided to open up Stables Flower Company.
Right. And so what it seems to me then, you've got this kaleidoscopic experience. You have a sustained passion. So at this stage, you've been doing it for years. It is your thing, and you've learned how to make it work for you. And not just work for you creatively, but work for you commercially. So you must have been exposed to all elements of running a business. And now you have been running the Stables Flower Company in Coleraine for how long?
4 years. There's a lot of fours going on, but 4 years. 4 years.
You're going to stay, right? So the pattern, if you see a sign, it's Jill, we need you. No signs so far.
I'm staying.
No signs so far. And the floral business then, is it like hairdressing? Is it something, do you think that how have people's attitudes changed towards flowers? Is it something that's stable? Is it related to economic conditions?
Okay. I think. Wow, that's quite a tricky question for their attitude towards flowers. Some people think all flowers are beautiful, and of course they are in their own way. But when you start combining them and you're trying to create something from them, there are different levels of floristry. You can open a flower shop and sell units of flowers and be a florist. That's not really what interests me in doing this job. And so, actually the retail side of floristry is not, Peninsula was not retail. Peninsula was just give me your budget and I'll make you something amazing. And that really is where my passion lies. So when I thought about opening this business, I did not want a retail shop. That wasn't what was on the cards at all. Hence, we're out in the countryside in the middle of nowhere. But I also love teaching. I did quite a bit of teaching with Jane Packer and with Daylesford, and when I opened this, I didn't know which way it would go, so I did some teaching and I did some weddings, and I just thought I don't really mind where it lands. I'll go with whatever. As a single parent, and the business still had to work for me. Okay, I was trying to nurture my creativity at the same time, but it also had to pay the bills. So I didn't mind which avenue the business took off in. Really, it happened to take off in the wedding industry more than any other. And I think brides are much more educated now than they used to be. Even when I was in Manchester, they would come in and we'd show them a photo album, and they'd say, do you want it in yellow or do you want it in pink? Whereas now, the first thing I say to them is, are you on Pinterest? Do you have any boards? And if they're a Pinterest bride, I know that they're looking at small textures and details and how the look of that changes their day. And, I love a good Pinterest bride.
Listen, let's just take a break. And I want to ask, there's a question come up from Keith. And he asks, what is the most flamboyant and outrageous floral design you have ever created?
Wow. Gosh. Okay. There's two that spring to mind, Keith. One is this is probably one of my favorites. The reopening of Felix is a restaurant in Hong Kong, designed by Philippe Starck, the French designer. It closed for a while for a refurb, and so I was there for the reopening. And at the entrance for the elevator that went up to the 30-something floor, I had a metal base, and I took watermelons, big, shiny, gorgeous, perfect watermelons, and I rammed them down onto this base and stacked them so that the base of the flower arrangement was watermelons, all shiny and funky looking. And then on the top watermelon, we sliced it and used it kind of as a water vessel, and had fabulous orchids and twigs coming out. And then on the tables in the restaurant, we did the same. We sliced the watermelons and had big blooms of orchids coming out. I have to say that stands out. That was a fab creation. I loved it.
And what strikes me about that is you're not limited to flowers. You're limited to anything that creates the visual experience, the feel, and flowers,
the smell.
Things apart. Any growing things apart. The smell, yeah. So listen, I'm going to ask you another question now. My next question is, and I think we've kind of got a sense of it from what you've talked about in relation to your journey between being young Jill and being the Jill you are right now running the Stables Flower Company. What has being a florist given to you? How has it rewarded you? Not financially, but personally.
I think I get a huge kind of big positive tick for who I am when I'm doing this. I mean, I remember back in the days of Peninsula, I couldn't believe they'd give me that job. But when I'd done some big function and they'd lowered the lights and the guests hadn't arrived, I'd go and I'd get out of my uniform and I'd go for one last peek, and it was magical. It was just breathtaking to me that I was allowed to create this, and that feeling has never left me. I get excited about that still, so it's an energy giver.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, because this is my 4th interview, and there is a common theme, and it's something around people being able to really connect with what's going on inside them and then get it out. So they're not keeping it to themselves, not thinking about it. They're actually allowing that to flow out through the right channel for them. So it sounds like when you were a child, actually any of the channels would have worked. You could have painted, you could have sketched, but flowers work. And so, it's almost like, this is my sense of it, when you go into a room and you have created that environment with flowers and smells and colours, you're actually seeing a fabulous reflection of you. Have you ever
I
had?
feel it's a very personal thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had that experience? So you've got Bo, and so I have a son as well. And when I was raising my son, we didn't spend any time apart. And when I wanted to stop breastfeeding and start helping him to use a cup, the best way to do that was to be completely separate. So he went to my parents, which is an 8-hour
Yeah.
drive. That's the only way we could do it. And I hadn't seen him for 24 hours, I think. So they say just no contact. It's not an option. And then when I saw it, it was like, oh, I saw myself looking back. And sometimes when I read a poem that I've written or a piece of writing, and I've created it, in the moment of creation, I don't, it's not personal. But when I see it, when I read it, it's like, oh, there's me looking back at me. And it's a way of connecting to the outside world, but in a way that is completely on your terms. It's you. No one else can do it. And the more you do it, the more vibrant that connection is.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I find it very hard. Like, I hate when I'm actually at the wedding. I find it very hard to take the compliment when people are saying, "Oh, you did the flowers."
Yeah.
There was recently a women's conference in Coleraine. I was dying to do this thing with giant vases and coloured water and floating candles, and I loved it. But I find it really cringy to be around when anybody's there and kind of passing comment on it. But I do like to stand and look at it myself and say,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm so pleased I got that out."
Yeah. So, have you? That's the positive side of things. It sounds like it's been a really positive journey for you. Have you had any barriers or hurdles you've had to overcome? So some people, the writers I've spoken to, some have had writer's block. We've had artist block. The florists get florist's block.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I definitely felt it in Bora Bora with the 3 types of flowers, the extreme from what I had in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You know, I ended up having my portfolio FedEx to me. I mean, Bora Bora is in the middle of nowhere. French Polynesia is so far away, and to get anything into French Polynesia is so. And I lost sight of what kind of I had done in Hong Kong and what I'd gone before, and I had my portfolio FedEx to me just so I could look at these pictures and gain some inspiration, because all I had was these 3 flowers. There was a tricky time. I felt in Bora Bora, definitely.
Yeah. So your solution is in that situation is to get inspiration from the outside rather than from the normal place, which is the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a combination of it being such a remote island. You know, it's a strange remote way of life, really, and almost primitive, really, on an island like that. Luxury hotels, but primitive way of life. So I think that was combined with that, really. But yeah, I mean, now at the moment, the challenges are of running a business. I never wanted, a business. I'm not a business person. I'm not a salesperson at all. And after working in London, I knew that retailing wasn't, my thing. And accounting, doing the accounts is really not my thing. But I scrape by with that side of it, which allows me to do the other side of it because it's a necessity. So that, I mean, that's my challenge. And my block. I would rather not even look at numbers, and sales is not my thing. But I think what I've found in this business and this community, that where word of mouth is so important, that I don't have to sell, I just have to do my thing, and the sales come.
Yeah,
so
and
that's really
also
nice.
That relationship is absolutely critical, and your ability to make a connection with the people you're working with. That's your, that's the best way to sell. So it's not really selling your product, it's selling the way you work with people and your passion for it. That's what, when I came and was talking to you about my head thing, I had this small idea of what it might look like, and then as soon as I opened my mouth, there's this explosion of, and I could, you're painting this picture before my eyes, and, I was kind of excited. I thought, well, that's what I really like. But by the time you finished talking to me, it's like, yeah, that's what I definitely want.
Yeah, and no bride that we sit down with has the same flowers, and that's what I love. It's not taken off a menu, and it's very much about her, and it's not about me. It's about her and her story and her style. And I'd ask her for 3 adjectives that would describe her dream day, and I'd hopefully help to bring that day, to reality for her. It's just great.
Just got another question popped in here. It's a private question. Jill, your lipstick matches your headphones. You're a woman of style. What do you do?
I'm not wearing lipstick.
Well, it's even better. Isn't that brilliant? What do you do to keep your ideas fresh and forward thinking?
I think that you look for inspiration everywhere. I mean, there's certain floral designers around the world, master florists, that I really love and keep my eye on. There's a Daniel Oss would be one. Gregor Lurch is one. I went to see a demonstration by Gregor Lurch, and what I bought at the end of his demo wasn't one of his color books, it was his sketchbook. When I saw there was a sketchbook, I was so excited about that, rather than the color photo coffee table book, because when I look at the sketchbook, it almost just shows form, and it doesn't show color or what flower it would be. It just shows the movement of what he was doing. And he signed it for me, and I got all tongue-tied, and I called him Mr. Gregor, and I really embarrassed myself. But things like that, I can open his sketchbook and find something different all the time, because I can put my own. It's like reading a story and being able to put your own visuals onto it. But I think inspiration comes from everywhere. Especially with the internet now, we can see so much interesting ideas. There's so much exciting stuff going on in Korea and Japan with floristry. Awesome.
And it sounds to me like it's a great time to be doing what you're doing. I mean, for all of us, it's a great time, because we have access to so much information. I mean, if you think 20 years ago, we wouldn't have had this access. In fact, to have this information, you'd have to do what you did. You'd have to get on a plane and go and work there. Listen, let me ask you another question. This is a question about creativity and your definition of what creativity is.
Okay. For me, then, creativity is bringing that, those elements together of the story and, at the moment, the customer request, and, creating something that fits that bill. I mean, there are things that sometimes you create, and it's just a little buzz. The other night I was doing a demonstration locally for about 100 ladies, and I decided to take a succulent plant, rip off the roots, rip out the inner circles, and attach a button with some designer wax. And it wasn't something I'd ever seen. It was something I'd kind of made up on the spot, but it was a great little combination of other ideas coming together. So it's a mix of influences from different places, and you can pop up with something quite original.
So it sounds to me what you're doing is you're synthesizing. You're using everything you've got, all your experience, and then you're able just to pull down in an instant this thing. And you're also confident about respecting your creative impulses.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. It's I think I've got that classic restaurant cliche, the East meets West fusion, going on. And what comes up in the middle is anyone's guess,
Yeah. And you're okay about experimenting as well. I think that's a really important part of creativity. Not being expecting not everything to work out. And so even the things we don't expect to work out, sometimes they are the best because we took the risk to give it a whirl.
Happy accidents, that's what we call them. Happy accidents sometimes are the best. Brilliant,
Just something from Janet. I think it would be lovely to make a film of all your experiences, Jill. It's a fascinating story, I agree. Do you need anyone on the film crew for Bora Bora? Do you?
Bora Bora, yeah. I would love to make it back to Bora Bora one day.
So, for me, talking to you tonight and knowing you and having the experience of you creating the floral art for our wedding, I can really get a sense of the creative excitement, the buzz that you get out of doing what you do. And there may be some people watching this tonight live or on the replay who think, you know what, this actually sounds like it's something I might want to try for myself. So if people wanted to have a go at floristry or floral design, what are some tips for getting started?
Okay, I think that there's two options. I mean, if you know already you're serious about it, then head to somewhere for us in Northern Ireland. It's Greenmount is the only place that does the professional floristry qualifications, and you can do a full-time or a part-time course there, which gives you all the basic techniques. It's a little bit in a way like I found it very frustrating to be at college, but you have to learn those rules.
Yeah.
You have to learn the principles of design. You have to learn how to wire flowers and all the mechanics that go on underneath. You need that information, even though you're repeating the same boring little arrangement over and over again. There's important stuff in there that you maybe don't realize at the time, but it is crucial that you know that. But I think there's also something to be said.
It's just like, so if you watch this and you don't know what Jill's talking about, it's like a musician playing scales. You have to play the scales, and then you let go of the scales and play jazz.
Break the rules. Yeah.
So you're a jazz florist.
You have to know the rules. Okay.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were talking more about how to get started, some top tips for getting started.
I mean, I would say if you're interested to see, what floristry is like at a level above maybe the local interflora shop, not to distance that they serve their purpose, but they're not, where I would want to be. Take a trip to London, go and look at some cutting-edge flower shops, just wandering, chat to them, chat to people about what it's really like to be doing great floristry, and you will get so inspired by it. Go visit Covent Garden Market, see what's available. It's an amazing industry, and it's much larger, I think, than people realize. But the UK has a division between the two ends of the spectrum of quality of florists, really. But hopefully, it will grow. The better florists will grow and take over. But I mean, we're lagging behind, really, the rest of the countries in Europe for kind of consistency in style. Every tiny flower shop you visit in Germany and Belgium and France will be very, very beautiful. We're just needing to catch up a little bit with that. But it's about educating the customer, and taking them with us on that creative journey.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is that the customer is the upcoming generation, the new younger generation in your particular niche, who are getting married. They've been brought up on watching television with design programs. They're used to these concepts, and this is a generation where the television programs aren't about showing, they're actually about inviting people into the process. And so when we're watching things about fashion and design, when we're watching things about ballroom dancing, we know all the technical stuff. And then we have a way of connecting people. Yeah, I know. Are you in hold properly? We know all the terms. And so that we feel that we can have that conversation, we can be more demanding, and we can feel confident about talking about things with florists that we might not have been able to do before. And I think having that challenge actually raises the bar for the florist. So those shops that aren't in that conversation, they're going to miss out, because I think the next generation, those people in their 20s and 30s, are really on the ball in terms of finding stuff out. You can find it out at the touch of a button on Google, and being a generation that has had access to so much information from so many different quarters, that when they come to have the conversation, they really know what they want.
Yeah, I love it. And that's so much more interesting for me, and at the moment, Pinterest is all it needs, because even if they don't understand what the flower's called or what seasons it in, they come with a series of pictures that have appealed to them, and I can tell they might think they're dramatically different, but I can see a common thread running through it of the overall look or a particular texture that they're using. And, I said, this tells me a lot more than maybe you realize, and we can work with brides much more kind of closely to get something that they're really looking for, and create a unique day for them with their flower. Yeah.
Well, it was the same for me. So I had this idea in my head that to have this kind of, Xena warrior princess look at going on, and you took that. I know, it would have been rubbish, but you took that and you turned it into something that is what I really wanted, but would have never imagined. And I think that's the real skill, is to find out what the nerve is, to hit that nerve, and then follow the nerve to the end. So, the thing that I didn't expect was real, even it might sound so basic to you, but real rose petals for the confetti. And then when they came down, and that's when I realized, heck, this is different, because the smell, the weight of them, the texture of them on your cheek, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, no, I mean, I have a picture of that. I have a picture of that bucket of petals, and I just loved even the bucket, the sign, how full it was. Everything.
So, if people watching now have changed their mind about flowers, even in terms of buying them for themselves, if you were going to engage or commission a florist for an event or to create something for you, what are some top tips that you could offer us? Things to look for when you're engaging a florist?
Okay, I mean, I think that one of the key things I would say is don't go in trying to spurt out jargon, because you can take us down the wrong path. You get people saying, I want something really different. Now, that means different things to different people. Yeah. And so, if you allow the florist to ask you the questions, rather than you go in and say, I'm looking for something contemporary, but what one person's contemporary isn't another. I work in the flower industry, so contemporary to me in flowers is uber contemporary, whereas what you might be talking about might be actually quite traditional.
Yeah.
So I would say. Yeah. Yeah, so I would say, let the florist ask you the questions rather than you go in and try. People don't want to look stupid, so they go, I want something, and actually they've said the wrong adjective. It's just an adjective they pulled out of the air. But if you let the florist lead you, I think you probably end up with a better result.
Right. And obviously seeing their work as well. I mean, the other thing I think, I don't buy a lot of flowers. I prefer trees and weeds, actually. I've had a whole summer of writing poems about weeds. I like them. But what I found was really helpful was coming to visit you. So you're sitting in your workshop right now. We've probably got a couple of minutes to get a bit of a workshop tour, to get a sense of the environment in which you work. I was walking into that because I saw things I'd never seen before. And I also realised that there are other tools of the trade, and that is how you present the flowers. So you had other things. So for us, you offered us slices of wood, which we'd use as stepping stones. And these are all accoutrements that are part of your design. And so if you go in with this expectation and you don't open your eyes to full possibility. So I think actually going to place, so not phoning up, but actually going to the place that the person works in, you then get a sense. So for me, it feels like a workshop. It feels like an artist's workshop, not a flower shop. It doesn't feel like a flower shop at all.
No, it doesn't. And there's quite often there's no flowers in here. There's only the flowers that are bought in and the flowers that are required. So there's often like not a bank of flowers like a flower shop. But yeah, I mean, I think it was very important to me in this business that I created the ambience that was, enjoyable for the bride. You drive down a leafy country lane, come to a double stables. You come in, the candles are lit, the classical music's playing. It's a lovely environment. And if I've got all the enamel buckets and tin baths out, and the bride says to me she wants something a bit more vintage, glamorous, Downton Abbey style, I'm up them stairs getting all the crystal out and the silverware and kind of go, okay, so this is not what we need, this is what we need, and that's exciting. Sometimes I think they think I'm bonkers, but it's exciting, to then see their face, saying, and here's a giant urn. They're like, wow, I need that in my life. Or at least I need it in my wedding.
So listen, if you could just give us a little bit of a tour, and while you're touring, there is a question that could be relevant, because I know that you open your studio for Christmas. Is that right? As a shop?
That's right. It's the only time we open for retail, but it's quite exciting because we serve mulled wine and roast chestnuts and there's lovely music playing and it's very atmospheric. But yes, we open Saturdays and Sundays from the end of November through to Christmas, from 11 to 5, both days of the weekend, where you can come down, purchase pre-made things or order your own thing, or we've got an inspiration station where you can put all your bits together and we'll make it while you wait.
Oh, that's brilliant. So there'll be an inspiration station. So what other things could people buy?
We'll have fresh reads, table centres, gifts. There's one of my favourite things is the stag head. Oh, I might have to take my headphones off. Wooden stag heads, reindeers.
Wow! So come on, give us a bit of a tour. Let's see where the magic happens.
Okay. So actually, I didn't know we were going to do this, Jen. I thought we talked about it, but it actually is a bit of a mess, and we're in between.
Do you know what? If I turn the camera around and showed you my kitchen, it would be worse. So you go first.
Okay, we're in between converting from wedding studio to Christmas studio. So this is some kind of Christmas setup things here. We've got some flowers in for a little wedding this weekend on a church bench, which is a nice wee addition to the wee flash of turquoise, really nice Downton Abbey ribbon up there. What else have we got then? So back down the rest of the workroom and our workspace, so workbench over the back, and then upstairs is a fabulous storage area. So yeah, it's not overly large. And that's us, background.
Brilliant. And the thing is that when I came, and so you've got the fabric of your studio and then you had stuff in it, and it was literally anything goes. It was almost like, well, if I said I'd like a window, that you would have pulled the window out. It was literally like, well, have that. You have that.
I would. I've had brides say to me, like, yeah, I've had brides say to me, I need something for this church hall, it's too bare. And I'm like, just come into my house and see what I've got. And I've got like a 20-foot branch in my barn with a spotlight on it. I'm like, what about this? You know, I will take apart or do anything. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, listen,
and I think, you know, I get the same. Oh.
So carry on.
I'm just going to say, I get the same feeling when I come in here that when I was younger and I used to go into an art shop, and you would be like, oh, it's like a treasure chest of everything I love. And I come in here and I get that sense of like, oh, yeah, I love everything in here. It's exciting.
And that happens for the client coming in. There's a real sense of wonder that you're in a real magical place, you know, where this with woman like a witch is magically up from nowhere. Listen, Jill, we're coming towards the end of the hour now, and I've got a lovely comment from Janet. And Janet says, the story of Jill's journey has been amazing. I don't think it would matter where Jill would be in the world. Her enthusiasm seems totally infectious. Very enjoyable time spent watching and listening to both. Thank you. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that comment, Janet.
Thank you.
So if people would like to find out a little bit more about you, Jill, or get in contact with you, how do they do that?
We have a very proactive Facebook page, so facebook.com Stables Flower Company, or website www.stablesflowercompany.com. They can access both of those very easily and contact me through either. And
in the replay link as well, there is, so when you get the email with the replay link, there are also contact details for Jill's website and Facebook page in that too. And no matter where you are in the world, it's really worth following Jill's page because there's always beautiful pictures of flowers on it and beautiful pictures of brides. And sometimes if you're not having a good day and you just watch a picture of two people blissfully happy surrounded by beautiful flowers, it lights your day up. Even just do it for that, it's worth it. Okay, well, that's us. That's the hour up, Jill. It's been absolutely fabulous having you as a guest. Really inspiring. And Janet's absolutely right. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and I can see that your journey, no matter where it takes you next, even if it means you're staying in Coleraine, I'm nodding my head, you're staying in Coleraine for a time, I'm sure it will work really well for you. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for coming. And Keith said, well done, Jill, go and open the champagne. We will, Keith. Bye.